Age by Ruth Manning Sanders. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. Where the old lamp swings from a hook, and monstrous spiders look out from the corners of each broken pane, where their dingy webs have lain from spring to spring, gathering dirt and hollow eyes and wings of luckless flies, there an old and smiling man labors out his span of days that shorten fast, and they all three, lamp and man and window, be time-worn, battered, shorn long ago of pride, aging side by side. But a dusty splendor drifts through the panes, and shifts along the bench as seasons travel by, and when without in freezing sky day falls dead, the lamp will shed o'er his tools a ring lit for laboring. And the years, one after one, see the same work done, slower only, but with heart as great, eye still true, back straight, with need but this for worldly bliss, tools, a store of wood, and each day's task made good. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Ant and the Cricket by Anonymous. Read for LibriVox.org by mleigh. A silly young cricket, accustomed to sing through the warm sunny months of gay summer and spring, began to complain when he found that at home his cupboard was empty and winter was come. Not a crumb to be found on the snow-covered ground, not a flower could he see, not a leaf on a tree. Oh, what will become, says the cricket, of me? At last by starvation and famine made bold, all dripping with wet and all trembling with cold, away he set off to a miserly ant, to see if, to keep him alive, he would grant him shelter from rain, a mouthful of grain. He wished only to borrow, he'd repay it tomorrow. If not, he must die of starvation and sorrow. Says the ant to the cricket, I'm your servant and friend, but we ants never borrow, we ants never lend. But tell me, dear sir, did you lay nothing by when the weather was warm? Said the cricket, not I. My heart was so light that I sang day and night, for all nature looked gay. You sang, sir, you say? Go then, said the ant, and dance winter away. Thus ending, he hastily lifted the wicket, and out of the door turned the poor little cricket. Though this is a fable, the moral is good. If you live without work, you must live without food. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Be a Friend by Edgar A. Guest. Read for LibriVox.org by Ronald Gardella. Be a friend. You don't need money, just a disposition sunny, just a wish to help another get along some way or other, just a kindly hand extended out to one who's unbefriended, just a will to give or lend. This will make you someone's friend. Be a friend. You don't need glory. Friendship is a simple story. Pass by trifling errors blindly, gaze on honest effort kindly. Cheer the youth who's bravely trying, pity him who's sadly sighing. Just a little labor spend on the duties of a friend. Be a friend. The pay is bigger, though not written by a figure, than is earned by people clever in what's merely self-endeavor. You'll have friends instead of neighbors for the profits of your labors. You'll be richer in the end than a prince if you're a friend. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Chansons Innocentes II by E. Cummings. Read for LibriVox.org by Winston, Tharp. Hist, whist, little ghost things, tiptoe, twinkle-toe, little twitchy witches and tingling goblins, hob-a-nob, hob-a-nob, little hoppy, happy toad in tweeds, little itchy mouses with scuttling eyes, rustle and run, and hide, whisk, whisk. Look out for the old woman with a wart on her nose. What she'll do to you, nobody knows. For she knows the devil, ouch, the devil, ouch, the devil, ah, the great green dancing devil, 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 whee. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Cowboy's Life, author unknown. Read for LibriVox.org by Nicole Wright, Linden, Washington, October 2023. The Cowboy's Life. The bawl of a steer, to a cowboy's ear, is music of sweetest strain, and the yelping notes of the gray coyotes to him are a glad refrain. And his jolly songs speed him along as he thinks of the little gal with golden hair who is waiting there at the bars of the home corral. For a kingly crown in the noisy town, his saddle he wouldn't change. No life so free as the life we see way out on the Yasso range. His eyes are bright and his heart is light as the smoke of his cigarette. There's never a care for his soul to bear, no trouble to make him fret. The rapid beat of his bronco's feet on the sod as he speeds along keeps living time to the ringing rhyme of his rollicking cowboy song. Hike it, cowboys, for the range away on the back of a bronc of steel, with a careless flirt of the rawhide quirt and a dig of a roweled heel. The winds may blow and the thunder growl, or the breezes may safely moan. A cowboy's life is a royal life, his saddle his kingly throne. Saddle up, boys, for the work is play, when love's in the cowboy's eyes, when his heart is light as the clouds of white that swim in the summer skies. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Dead Men of Pest by John Herman Merivale. Read for LibriVox.org by Newgatenovelist. I left the chalky cliffs of old England, and paced through many a region fair to see, through the realm of Greece and Holy Land, until I journeyed into sad Hungary. I saw old Cecrop's town, and famous Rome, but David's holy place I liked best. I saw strange sights that made me pine for home, but much the strangest in the town of Pest. It was a goodly city, fair to see. By its proud walls and stately towers it gave a delicate aspect to the country, with its brig of boats across the Danau's wave. Yet many things with grief I did survey. The streets all were mantled o'er with grass, and, though it were upon the Sabbath day, no bells did toll to call the folk to mass. The churchyard gates with bars were closed fast, like to a sinful and accursed place. It showed as though the judgment day were past, and the dead exiled from the throne of grace. At last an aged carle came halting by. A woeful wight he was, and sad of cheer, of whom, if aught of cell or bower were nigh, for weary pilgrim's rest I 'gan to speer. "Stranger," he said, "in Mary's name depart," and when thus spoken would have passed me by. His hollow voice sank deep into my heart, yet I would not let him pass, and asked, "Why?" "'Tis now midday," quoth he, "the sun shines bright, and all things glad, but only here in Pest, but an 'twere winter wild, at dead of night. Not here, O stranger, shouldst thou seek to rest, though rain and torrents fell and cold wind blew, and thou with travail sore and hunger pale. Though the sun, said I, shine bright and the day be new, I'll not depart until thou'st told thy tale. This woeful wight then took me by the hand. His, like a skeleton's, was bony and cold. He leaned as though he scarce mote go or stand, like one who 80 years hath, haply, told. We came together to the market cross, and the wight, all woe begone, spake never word. No living thing was seen our path to cross, though dollars' groans from many a house I heard. Save one poor dog that stalked athwart a court, fearfully howling with most piteous wail. The sad man whistled in a dismal sort, and the poor thing slunk away and hid his tail. I felt my very blood creep in my veins, my bones were icy cold, my hair on end. I wished myself again upon the plains, yet could not but that sad old man attend. The sad old man sat down upon a stone, and I sat on another at his side. He heaved mournfully a piteous groan, and then to ease my doubts his self applied. Stranger, quoth he, regard my visage well, and eke these bony fingers feel again. How many winters seemeth it they tell? I doubtingly replied, 60. Stranger, not 40 years agone I lay an infant mewling in the nurse's arms. Not 40 days agone 2 daughters gay did make me joyful by their opening charms. Yet now I seem some 80 winters old, and every drop of blood hath left my veins. All's my fair daughters twain lie stiff and cold, and bloodless, bound in death's eternal chains. Stranger, this town so pleasant to our sights, with goodly towers and palaces so fair, whilome for gentle dames and valiant knights, from all Hungaria's land the mead did bear. But now the few, still rescued from the dead, are sobbing out their breath in sorry guise. All that had strength to flee long since have fled, save only I, who long to close mine eyes. 7 weeks are past since our folk began to pine and fall away, no reason why. The ruddiest visage turned to pale and wan, and glassy stillness filmed the brightest eye. Some doctors said the lakes did agues breed, but spring returning would the same disperse, whiles others, contrary to nature's creed, averred the season's change would make us worse. And though we laugh at these, like doters fond, or faitors wont in paradox to deal, yet as the sun waxed warm throughout the land, all men the more did wintry shiverings feel. At length it chanced that one of station high fell sick and died upon the 7th day. They oped the course, the hidden cause to spy, and found that all the blood was drained away. There was a tailor, Vulvius by name, who long amongst us dwelt in honest pride, a worthy citizen esteemed by fame, that since some month of a sudden died. Now thus it happed, as oft it chanceth so, that, after he was gone, strange rumours spread of evil haunts where 'twas his wont to go, and midnight visitations to the dead. Now when this fearful malady had grown to such an height as men were loath to say, amongst the rest in our unhappy town, my darling daughters sore tormented lay. Nathless I marked that ever whiles they pined, their appetite for food increased the more. They fed on richest meats whene'er they dined, and drank of old Tokay my choicest store. Thus every eve their colour fresh arose, and they did look again both brisk and gay. All night deep slumbers did their eyelids close, but worse and worse they walks by break of day. One night it chanced, as they sleeping laid, their serving wench at midnight sought their room, to bring some posset, broth, or jelly, made to quell the plague that did their lives consume. When, ere she reached the spot, a heavy sound of footsteps lumbering up the stair she heard, and, soon as they had gained the topmost round, the buried tailor to her sight appeared. She heard him ope my daughter's chamber door, her light let fall, she had no force to cry. Then in brief space again, for so she swore, it lumbered down, but far more heavily. This story heard, albeit I inly smiled, to think this seely maid such fears could shake. Yet the next night, to prove her fancies wild, I kept myself, till past midnight, awake. When at the midnight bell a sound I heard, of heavy lumbering steps, a sound of dread, the tailor Vulvius to my sight appeared, and all my senses at the instant fled. Next day I found a friar of mickle grace, a learned clerk, and prayed he would me read, in such a strange, perplexed, and devilish case, his ghostly counsel how 'twere best proceed. Into the churchyard we together went, and he at every gravestone said a prayer, till at the tailor Vulvius' monument we stopped. A spade and mattock had we there. We digged the earth wherein the tailor lay, till at the tailor's coffin we arrived, nor there, I ween, much labour found that day, for every bolt was drawn, and the hinges rived. This sight was strange, but stranger was to see the corse, though laid some months' space in mould, did show like living man, full blithe of glee, and ruddy, fresh, and comely to behold. And now the cause we haply mote presume, the Vampyre, so he named this demon guest, had burst the sacred cerements of the tomb, and of the buried corse himself possessed. This news, when through the town we made it known, unusual horror seized the stoutest wights, as deeming not the tailor's grave alone had been so made a haunt of damned sprites. The churchyard now was digged all about, and every new-made grave laid bare to view, when every corse that they did dig thereout seemed like the first, of fresh and ruddy hue. 'Twas plain the corses that the churchyards filled were they who nightly lumbered up our stair, who sucked our blood, the living banquet swilled, and left us all bestraught with blank despair. And now the priests burn incense in the choir, and scatter Ave Marias o'er the grave, and purify the church with lustral fire, and cast all things profane in Danao's wave. And they've barred with iron bars the churchyard pale, to keep them in, but vain is all they do, For when a dead man hath learnt to draw a nail, he can also burst an iron bolt in two. The saddled man here ended. I arose, with mingled grief and wonderment possessed. I rode 9 leagues or ere I sought repose, and never again came nigh the town of Pest. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Happy Halloween!
The Dirge by Henry King. Read for LibriVox.org by Public Domain Scholar. The Dirge. What is the existence of man's life, but open war, where slumbered strife, where sickness to his sense presents the combat of the elements, and never feels a perfect peace, till death's cold hand signs his release. It is a storm, where the hot blood outvies in rage the boiling flood, and each loud passion of the mind is like a furious gust of wind, which beats his bark with many a wave, till he cast anchor in the grave. It is a flower which buds and grows, and withers as the leaves disclose, whose spring and fall faint seasons keep, like fits of waking before sleep, then shrinks into that fatal mold, where its first being was enrolled. It is a dream whose seeming truth is moralized in age of youth, where all the comforts he can share, as wandering as his fancies are, till in a mist of dark decay the dreamer vanish quite away. It is a dial which points out the sunset as it moves about, and shadows out in lines of night the subtle stages of time's flight, till all obscuring earth hath laid the body in perpetual shade. It is a weary interlude which doth short joys, long woes include, the world the stage, the prologue tears, the act's vain hope, and buried fears. The scene shuts up with loss of breath, and leaves no epilogue, but death. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Doors of the Temple by Aldous Huxley. Read by Ronald Gardella for LibriVox.org. Many are the doors of the Spirit that lead into the inmost shrine, and I count the gates of the temple divine, since the God of the place is God indeed, and these are the gates that God decreed should lead to his house, kisses and wine, cool depths of thought, youth without rest, and calm old age, prayer and desire, the lover's and mother's breast, the fire of sense and the poet's fire. But he that worships the gates alone, forgetting the shrine beyond, shall see the great valves open suddenly, revealing not God's radiant throne, but the fires of wrath and agony. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Drake's Drum by Sir Henry Newbolt. Read for LibriVox.org by Alan Mapstone. Drake, he's in his hammock, and 1,000 miles away. Captain, art thou sleeping there below? Slung atween the round shot in Nombre Dios Bay, and dreaming all the time o' Plymouth Hoe. Yonder looms the island, yonder lie the ships, we sailor lads a-dancing heel and toe, and the shore lights flashing, and the night tide dashing, he sees it all so plainly as he saw it long ago. Drake he was a Devon man, and ruled the Devon seas. Captain, art thou sleeping there below? Roving though his death fell, he went wi' heart at ease, a-dreaming all the time o' Plymouth Hoe. Take my drum to England, hang it by the shore, strike it when your powder's running low. If the dawn sight Devon, I'll quit the port o' heaven, and drum them up the channel as we drummed them long ago. Drake he's in his hammock till the great armadas come. Cap'n, art thou sleeping there below? Slung atween the round shot, listening for the drum, and dreaming all the time o' Plymouth Hoe. Call him on the deep sea, call him up the sound, call him when ye sail to meet the foe. Where the old trade's plying, and the old flag's flying, they shall find him ware and waking, as they found him long ago. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Gerontion by T.S. Eliot. Read for LibriVox.org by Ehsan Ahmed Mehedi. Thou hast nor youth nor age, but as it were an after-dinner sleep, dreaming of both. Here I am, an old man in a dry month, being read to by a boy, waiting for rain. I was neither at the hot gates, nor fought in the warm rain, nor knee-deep in the salt marsh, heaving a cutlass, bitten by flies, fought. My house is a decayed house, and the Jew squats on the window-sill, the owner, spawned in Samistaminé of Antwerp, blistered in Brussels, patched and peeled in London. The goat coughs at night in the field overhead, rocks, moss, stone crop, iron, margs. The woman keeps the kitchen, makes tea, sneezes at evening, poking the peevish gutter. I, an old man, a dull head among windy spaces. Signs are taken for wonders, or you would see a sign. The word within a word, unable to speak a word, swaddled with darkness, in the juviscence of the year came Christ the tiger. In depraved May, dogwood and chestnut, flowering Judas, to be eaten, to be divided, to be drunk among whispers by Mr. Silvero with caressing hands at Limoges, who walked all night in the next room, by Hakagawa bowing among the Titians, by Madame de Tornquist in the dark room shifting the candles, Fraulein von Kulp, who turned in the hall, one hand on the door. Vacant shutters weave the wind. I have no ghosts. An old man in a draughty house, under a windy knob. After such knowledge, what forgiveness? Think now, history has many cunning passages, contrived corridors, and issues, deceives with whispering ambitions, guides us by vanities. Think now, she gives when our attention is distracted, and what she gives with such supple confusions that the giving famishes the craving, gives too late what's not believed in, or is still believed in memory only, reconsidered passion, gives too soon into weak hands what's thought can be dispensed with, till the refusal propagates a fear. Think neither fear nor courage saves us. Our natural vices are fathered by our heroism. Virtues are forced upon us by our impudent crimes. These tears are shaken from the wrath-bearing tree. The tiger springs in the new year, us he devours. Think at last we have not reached conclusion, when I stiffen in a rented house. Think at last I have not made this show purposely, and it is not by any concitation of a backward devil's. I would meet you upon this honestly. I that was near your heart was removed therefrom, to lose beauty in terror, terror in inquisition. I have lost my passion. Why should I need to keep it, since what is kept must be adulterated? I have lost my sight, smell, hearing, taste and touch. How should I use them for your closer contact? These, with a thousand small deliberations, protract the profit of their chill delirium, excite the membrane when the sense has cooled, with pungent sauces, multiply variety, in a wilderness of mirrors. What will the spider do? Suspend its operations? Will the weevil delay? Deviash fresca, Mrs. Camel, wild beyond the circuit of shuddering bear. In fractured atoms, gull against the wind, in windy straits of Belle Isle, or running on the Horn, white feathers in the snow. The gulf gleams, and an old man, driven by the trades to a sleepy corner, tenants of the house. Thoughts of a dry brain in a dry season. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Green Eye of the Yellow God by J. Milton Hayes. Read for LibriVox.org by Patrick Wallace. There's a one-eyed yellow idol to the north of Kathmandu. There's a little marble cross below the town. There's a broken-hearted woman tends the grave of Mad Carew, and the yellow god for ever gazes down. He was known as Mad Carew by the subs at Kathmandu. He was hotter than they felt inclined to tell. But for all his foolish pranks, he was worshipped in the ranks, and the colonel's daughter smiled on him as well. He had loved her all along with the passion of the strong. The fact that she loved him was plain to all. She was nearly 21, and arrangements had begun to celebrate her birthday with a ball. He wrote to ask what present she would like from Mad Carew. They met next day as he dismissed a squad, and jestingly she told him then that nothing else would do but the green eye of the little yellow god. On the night before the dance, Mad Carew seemed in a trance, and they chaffed him as they puffed at their cigars. But for once he failed to smile, and he sat alone a while, then went out into the night beneath the stars. He returned before the dawn with his shirt and tunic torn, and a gash across his temples dripping red. He was patched up right away, and he slept all through the day, and the colonel's daughter watched beside his bed. He woke at last and asked if they could send his tunic through. She brought it, and he thanked her with a nod. He bade her search the pocket, saying, "That's from Mad Carew." And she found the little green eye of the god. She upbraided poor Carew in the way that women do, though both her eyes were strangely hot and wet. But she wouldn't take the stone, and Carew was left alone with the jewel that he'd chanced his life to get. When the ball was at its height on that still and tropic night, she thought of him and hastened to his room. As she crossed the barrack square, she could hear the dreamy air of a waltz tune softly stealing through the gloom. His door was open wide, with silver moonlight shining through. The place was wet and slippy where she trod. An ugly knife lay buried in the heart of Mad Carew. 'Twas the vengeance of the little yellow god. There's a one-eyed yellow idol to the north of Kathmandu. There's a little marble cross below the town. There's a broken-hearted woman tends the grave of Mad Carew, and the yellow god for ever gazes down. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Harvest by Ellen Mackay Hutchiston Cortisses. Read for LibriVox.org by Ike Sherr. Sweet, sweet, sweet is the wind's song, astir in the rippled wheat all day long. It hath the brook's wild gaiety, the sorrowful cry of the sea. Oh, hush and hear! Sweet, sweet and clear, above the locusts' whir and hum of bee rises that soft, pathetic harmony. In the meadow grass the innocent white daisies blow, the dandelion plume doth pass vaguely to and fro. the unquiet spirit of a flower that hath too brief an hour. Now doth a little cloud all white or golden bright drift down the warm blue sky, and now on the horizon line where dusky woodlands lie, a sunny mist doth shine, like to a veil before a holy shrine, concealing, half revealing things divine. Sweet, sweet, sweet is the wind's song, astir in the rippled wheat all day long. That exquisite music calls the reaper everywhere. Life and death must share. The golden harvest falls. So doth all end, honoured philosophy, science and art, the bloom of the heart, master, consular, friend, make thou the harvest of our days to fall within thy ways. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
A Hymn to Venus by Richard Crashaw. Read for LibriVox.org by Public Domain Scholar. A Hymn to Venus, while the virgins pass under her protection. Be thou, sweet Venus, present now, whilst at thy sacred rites we vow. Smile, Venus, with the smile that charms, when Mars enfolds thee in his arms. Overcome with glance at sunshine golden, renowned from the ages olden. Smile then, Phoebus, flame shall fail, nor Phoebe her own darts avail. Thy Cupid only against thee wields successful weaponry. Oft and oft the laughing boy, in the wildness of his joy, has slipped into Diana's quiver his keen arrows that a shiver, pleasant painful sent through all, when he the trickster doth enthrall. Yea, he has dared the Lord of Fire, with flames more burning in his ire. The arm-linked virgins to thee pray, seeking thou wouldst near them stay. Word but to offer here, in the flock that hovers near, more doves and sparrows, lightly flying, to their prayer there's no denying. Lo, they dedicate in poesies, all their lips supply of roses, all their necks of lilies white, as the dewy stainless light, yea, the whole spring of each cheek, and that which from their eyes doth break. Hence, Venus, arms thou mayest take, from thy wanton boy to make, arrows from their fire-darting eyes, or torches flame-tipped that surprise, with love's delicious agonies. Take them, and see thou lettest them know what means a mistress, and then show what the night all wakeful is, in the rapture of its bliss. What the bold lover shall demand, when all the charms he doth command. Take them, by all the hearts that burn, and passionate unto thee turn, by all the mysteries that are beneath, or in thine own girdle sheath, by all to thee Adonis e'er, or said or did, when he would swear, ne'er in the world was one so fair. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
If I Should Die Tonight by Ben King. Read for LibriVox.org by Ike Sherr. After Arabella Eugenia Smith. If I should die tonight, and you should come to my cold corpse and say, weeping and heartsick o'er my lifeless clay, if I should die tonight, and you should come in deepest grief and woe and say, here's that $10 that I owe, I might arise in my large white cravat and say, what's that? If I should die tonight, and you should come to my cold corpse and kneel, clasping my bier to show the grief you feel, I say, if I should die tonight, and you should come to me and there and then just even hint at paying me that 10, I might arise the while, but I drop dead again. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
In a Disused Graveyard by Robert Frost. Read for LibriVox.org by Winston Tharp. The living come with grassy tread to read the gravestones on the hill. The graveyard draws the living still, but never any more the dead. The verses in it say and say, the ones who living come today to read the stones and go away, tomorrow dead will come to stay. So sure of death the marbles rhyme, yet can't help marking all the time how no one dead will seem to come. What is it men are shrinking from? It would be easy to be clever and tell the stones men hate to die and have stopped dying now forever. I think they would believe the lie. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Life's Day by Jean Blewett. Read for LibriVox.org by Bruce Kachuk. Life's day is too brief, he said at dawn. I would it were 10 times longer, for great tasks wait for me further on. At noonday the wish was stronger. His place was in the thick of the strife, and hopes were nearing completeness, while one was crowning the joys of life with love's own wonderful sweetness. Life's day is too brief for all it contains, the triumphs, the fighting, the proving, the hopes and desires, the joys and the pains, too brief for the hating and loving. Tonight he sits in the shadows gray, while heavily sorrow presses. Oh, the long, long day, oh, the weary day, with its failures and successes. He sits in the shadows and turns his eyes on the years that lie behind him. I am tired of all things now, he cries, and the hot tears rise and blind him. Rest and stillness is all that I crave, such robbing of strength has grief done. Make room, dear love, in your lowly grave. Life's day, thank God, is a brief one.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Limerick by Gillette Burgess, from a nonsense anthology compiled by Carolyn Wells. Read for LibriVox.org by Dale Grothmann. I'd rather have habits than clothes, for that's where my intellect shows. And as for my hair, do you think I should care to comb it at night with my toes? I'd rather have ears than a nose. I'd rather have fingers than toes. But as for my hair, I'm glad it's all there. I'll be awfully sad when it goes. I wish that my room had a floor. I don't care so much for a door. But this walking around without touching the ground is getting to be quite a bore. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Look That Thrilled by Ruby Gardner. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. And Peter said, Man, I know not what thou sayest. And immediately while he yet spake, the cock crew. And the Lord turned and looked upon Peter. And Peter remembered, and went out and wept bitterly. St. Luke 22:61 and 62. The solemn words were spoken now, and ere the third cock crow, St. Peter in humility and sorrow bended low. The bread he brake, the shade was cast upon his sacred brow, for those who were to crucify conspired even now. He prayed that those he loved might yet within his faith abide, although by all his followers he was to be denied. and then to dark Gethsemane our Saviour Jesus went, in mental agony alone, in supplication bent. O Father, if it be thy will, remove this cup from me. Yet not my will, but thine alone, nevertheless to be. He sweated blood in agony. O God, my God, for me, all this and then the shame, the cross, to set a sinner free. The angel came to strengthen him. He prayed, then turned to see if one among his followers as yet might faithful be. And Peter followed far away, then lingered he outside. Before his Lord and Master there, his Saviour he denied. And Jesus turned and looked upon St. Peter standing there, a look of sorrow and of love, too great for a man to bear, a look that filled a soul with shame, reproachful love, far more than words could tell. It seemed to say how great the load he bore. And Peter then remembered how he had denied his Lord. He turned away in bitter tears, his sorrow he outpoured. And thus in grief unspeakable no mortal man might know, St. Peter fallen, lonely, sad, in sorrow bended low. Lord, dost thou turn and look on me, when by an act or word, a silence or betraying glance, I too deny my Lord? Is it thy look divine that sends that painful thrill of shame, that tells me I have wounded thee and honored not thy name? Then, Lord, I ask thee still to guide me by that glance divine. Lead on, I cannot go alone, and make me only thine. Then was the prayer our Saviour prayed for evermore to fail, the prayer for God's sustaining faith to be of no avail. Ah, no! Although the outlook seemed so hopeless, dark, and dim, the power of God was still with Christ, forgiving might in Him. Soon pardoned, blessed, St. Peter stands restored, triumphant now. The Pentecostal fire of power, God's seal is on his brow. Repented all the sinful past, the prayer of Christ fulfilled, as through the veins of new-born hope the Holy Spirit thrilled. No useless dwelling on the past of faithlessness and sin must hinder now the call divine that bids him work and win. But trusting in Christ's precious blood to wash away the stain, his faith in Jesus Peter proves, not looking back again. So rise, O soul, nor dwell upon repented sin forgiven, for Christ victoriously for all with sin and death hath striven. So prove your faith by works divine, in thankfulness and joy. Sow seed for him who has redeemed. He'll bless a heart's employ. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Oh Come Quickly, author unknown. Read for LibriVox.org by Nicole Wright. Linden, Washington, October 2023. Oh Come Quickly. Savior, haste! Our souls are waiting for the long-expected day, when new heavens and earth creating, thou shalt banish grief away, all the sorrow caused by sin and Satan's sway. Haste, O hasten thine appearing, take thy mourning people home. 'Tis this hope our spirits cheering, while we in the desert roam, makes thy people strangers here till thou dost come. Lord, how long shall the creation groan and travail sore in pain, waiting for its sure salvation, when thou shalt in glory reign, and like Eden this sad earth shall bloom again? Reign, O reign, almighty Saviour, heaven and earth in one unite. Make it known that in thy favor there alone is life and light. When we see thee, we shall have supreme delight. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
October's Party by George Cooper. Read for LibriVox.org by Roger Smith. October gave a party, the leaves by hundreds came, the chestnuts, oaks, and maples, and leaves of every name. The sunshine spread a carpet, and everything was grand. Miss Weather led the dancing, Professor Wynne the band. The chestnuts came in yellow, the oaks in crimson dressed, the lovely Mrs. Maple in scarlet looked their best. All danced to their partners and gaily fluttered by. The sight was like a rainbow new fallen from the sky. Then in the rustic hollow at hide-and-seek they played. The party closed at sundown, and everybody stayed. Professor Wynne played louder, they flew along the ground, and then the party ended in jolly hands around. End of poem. This poem is in the public domain.
On the Grasshopper and Cricket by John Keats. Read for LibriVox.org by mleigh. The poetry of earth is never dead when all the birds are faint with the hot sun and hide in cooling trees. A voice will run from hedge to hedge about the new-mown mead. That is the grasshopper's, he takes the lead. In summer luxury he has never done with his delights, for when tired out with fun, he rests at ease beneath some pleasant weed. The poetry of earth is ceasing never, on a lone winter evening, when the frost has wrought a silence. From the stove there shrills the cricket's song, in warmth increasing ever, and seems to one in drowsiness half lost, the grasshoppers among the grassy hills. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Phases of the Moon by Eleanor Wiley. Read for LibriVox.org by Roger Smith. Once upon a time I heard that the flying moon was a phoenix bird. Thus she sails through windy skies, thus in the willow's arms she lies. Turn to the east or turn to the west, in many trees she makes her nest. But when she's but a pearly thread, look among the birch leaves overhead. When she dies in yellow smoke, look in a thunder-smitten oak. But in May, when the moon is full, bright as water and white as wool, look for her where she loves to be, asleep in a high magnolia tree. End of poem. This poem is in the public domain. The Poor Old Canon by Eleanor Wiley. Read for LibriVox.org by Roger Smith. Up broke the sun in red gold foam, thus spoke the gun at the soldier's home. Whenever I hear blue thunder speak, my voice sounds clear but little and weak. And when the proud young cockerels crow, my voice sounds loud but gentle and low. And when the mockingbird prolongs his note, I cannot be heard, though I split my throat. End of poem. This poem is in the public domain.
Requiescat by Matthew Arnold. Read by Ronald Gardella for LibriVox.org. Strew on her roses, roses, and never a spray of you. In quiet she reposes. Ah, would that I did too. Her mirth the world required. She bathed it in smiles of glee, but her heart was tired, tired, and now they let her be. Her life was turning, turning, in mazes of heat and sound, but for peace her soul was yearning, and now peace laps her round. Her cabined ample spirit, it fluttered and failed for breath. Tonight it doth inherit the vasty hall of death. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Song by John Herman Merivale. read for LibriVox.org by Newgatenovelist. More for Ridlan. 'Twas at the time when the white thorn was blowing, when pleasant and fruitful the early dews fell, that to the wars as my Owen was going, he stayed one sad moment to bid me farewell. But oh, the marshes of Ridlan! He knew not, forever he bade me farewell. Sad was our parting, and bitter tears falling showed hearts full of sorrow and bursting with love. But a brave soldier whom honour is calling, no sorrow can soften, no passion can move. Yet before eve, on the salt marsh of Ridlan, in anguish he thought on the tears of his love. Fair smiled the morn, but no joy to my bosom could all the gay livery of nature afford. Fresh was the breeze that blew over the blossom, my heart, it was heavy because of my lord. And when night fell o'er the marshes of Ridlan, in dreams I beheld it, the form of my lord. Dark rose the morning, and winds loudly blowing had chased from my pillow the visions of sleep. I sat at my window and thought of my Owen. I strove to be cheerful, but only could weep. For something had said, on the marshes of Ridlan, thy Owen is stretched in the hero's last sleep. Never shall time put an end to my mourning. E'en winter retiring no joy brings to me. Lovers may hope in the gay spring returning. 'Twas then that I parted, my Owen, from thee. Oh, the green marshes, the marshes of Ridlan, I parted for ever, my Owen, from thee. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
To a Cricket by William Cox Bennett. Read for LibriVox.org by mleigh. Voice of summer, keen and shrill, chirping round my winter fire, of thy song I never tire, weary others as they will, for thy song with summers filled with sunshine, filled with June, firelight echo of that noon, heard in fields when all is stilled, in the golden light of May, bringing scents of new-mown hay, bees and birds and flowers away. Prithee haunt my fireside still, voice of summer, keen and shrill. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Today You Understand by Jean Blewett. Read for LibriVox.org by Bruce Kachuk. You lifted eyes, pain-filled to me, sad questioning eyes that did demand why I should thrust back childishly the friendship warm you offered me. Ah, sweet, today you understand. 'Twas that my heart beat rapturously at word of thine, at touch of hand, at tender glance vouchsafed to me, the while I knew it must not be. Ah, sweet, today you understand. There's neither pain nor mystery in that far-off and fragrant land to which you journeyed fearlessly by gates of pearl and jasper sea. Ah, sweet, today you understand.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
To My Grandmother by Frederick Locker Lampson. Read for LibriVox.org by Ike Sherr. Suggested by a picture by Mr. Omni. Under the elm of a rustic seat was merriest Susan's pet retreat to merry-make. This relative of mine, was she 79 when she died? By the canvas may be seen how she looked at 17, as a bride. Beneath a summer tree her maiden reverie has a charm. Her ringlets are in taste. What an arm, and what a waist for an arm! With her bridal wreath, bouquet, lace farthingale, and gay falbala, if Romney's touch be true, what a lucky dog were you, Grandpapa! Her lips are sweet as love. They are parting. Do they move? Are they dumb? Her eyes are blue, and beam beseechingly, and seem to say, "Come." What funny fancy slips from between these cherry lips? Whisper me, fair sorceress in paint, what canon says I mayn't marry thee? That good-for-nothing Time has a confidence sublime. When I first saw this lady in my youth, her winters had forsooth done the worst. Her locks, as white as snow, once shamed the swarthy crow. By and by that fowl's avenging sprite set his cruel foot for spite near her eye. Her rounded form was lean, and her silk was bombazine. Well I wot, with her needles would she sit, and for hours would she knit. Would she not? Ah, perishable clay, her charms had dropped away one by one. But if she heaved a sigh with a burden, it was thy will be done. In travail as in tears, with the fardel of her years overpressed, in mercy she was born where the weary and the worn are at rest. Oh, if you now are there, and sweet as you once were, Grandmamma, this netherworld agrees you'll all the better please Grandpapa. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Vampyre by Vasil Alexandri, read for LibriVox.org by Aaron Sproule. Near the cliff's sharp edge on high, standing out against the sky, dost thou see a ruined cross, weather-stained, o'ergrown by moss, gloomy, desolate, forsaken, by unnumbered tempests shaken. Not a blade of grass grows nigh it, not a peasant lingers by it. E'en the sombre bird of flight shuns it in her darksome flight, startled by the piteous groan that arises from the stone. All around on starless nights myriad hosts of livid lights flicker fretfully, revealing at its foot a phantom kneeling, whilst it jabbers dismal plaints, cursing God and all the saints. Tardy traveller, beware of that spectre gibbering there. Close your eyes and urge your steed to the utmost of his speed, for beneath that cross I ween lies a vampire's corpse obscene. Though the night is black and cold, love's fond story, often told, floats in whispers through the air. Stalwart youth and maiden fair seal sweet vows of ardent passion with their lips in lovers' fashion. Restless, pale, a shape I see, hovering nigh, what may it be? 'Tis a charger, white as snow, pacing slowly to and fro, like a sentry as he turns, haughtily the sword he spurns. Leave me not, beloved, tonight, stay with me till morning's light. Weeping thus besought the maid, Love, my soul is sore afraid. Brave not the dread vampire's power, mightiest at this mystic hour. Not a word he spake, but pressed the sobbing maiden to his breast, kissed her lips and cheeks and eyes, heedless of her tears and sighs, waved his hand with gesture gay, mounted, smiled, and rode away. Who rides across the dusky plain, tearing along with might and main, like some wild storm fiend in his flight, nursed on the ebony breast of night? 'Tis he who left her in her need, her lover on his milk-white steed. The blast in all its savage force strives to overthrow the gallant horse, that snorts defiance to his foe, and struggles onward. See, below, the causeway long the river's side, 1,000 fluttering flamelets glide. Now they approach and now recede, still followed by the panting steed. He nears the ruined cross, a crash, a piteous cry, a heavy splash, and in the rocky river bed rider and horse lie crushed and dead. Then from those dismal depths arise blaspheming yells and strident cries, re-echoing through the murky air, and like a serpent from its lair, brandishing high a blood-stained glaive, the vampire rises from his grave. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Voyages V by Hart Crane. Read for LibriVox.org by Winston Tharp. Meticulous, past midnight in clear rhyme, infrangible and lonely, smooth as though cast together in one merciless white blade, the bay estuaries fleck the hard sky limits. As if too brittle or too clear to touch, the cables of our sleep so swiftly filed already hang, shred ends from remembered stars. One frozen, trackless smile. What words can strangle this deaf moonlight? For we are overtaken. Now no cry, no sword can fasten or deflect this tidal wedge. Slow tyranny of moonlight, moonlight loved and changed. There's nothing like this in the world, you say, knowing I cannot touch your hand and look, too, into that godless cleft of sky where nothing turns but dead sands flashing, and never to quite understand. No, in all the argosy of your bright hair I dreamed nothing so flagless as this piracy. But now, draw in your head alone and too tall here, your eyes already in the slant of drifting foam, your breath sealed by the ghosts I do not know. Draw in your head and sleep the long way home. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
When Paganini Plays by Jean Blewett. Read for LibriVox.org by Bruce Kachuk. Dawn, laughs the bow, and we straight see the sky, crimson and golden and grey. See the rosy cloudlets go drifting by, and the sheen on the lark as soaring high he carols to greet the day. Fast moves the bow o'er the wonderful strings, we feel the joy in the air. 'Tis alive with the glory of growing things, with wild honeysuckle that creeps and clings, rose of the briar bush, queen of the springs, anemones frail and fair. We listen and whisper with laughter low, it voices rare gladness, that ancient bow. Then sad as the plaint of a child at night, a child aweary with play, the falling of shadows a lost delight, the moaning of watchers counting the flight of hours twixt the dark and day. It echoes the cry of a broken heart, it grieves o'er a might have been, it holds all the passionate tears that start when our heaven and our earth drift far apart, and the way lies dark between. It stills all our laughter, and whispers low, 'tis heartstrings it plays on, that ancient bow.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
When You Know a Fellow by Edgar A. Guest. Read for LibriVox.org by Nicole Wright. Linden, Washington, October 2023. When you get to know a fellow, know his joys and know his cares, when you've come to understand him and the burdens that he bears, when you've learned the fight he's making and the troubles in his way, then you find that he is different than you thought him yesterday. You find his faults are trivial and there's not so much to blame in the brother that you jeered at when you only knew his name. You are quick to see the blemish in the distant neighbor's style. You can point to all his errors and may sneer at him the while, and your prejudices fatten and your hates more violent grow, as you talk about the failures of the man you do not know. But when drawn a little closer and your hands and shoulders touch, you find the traits you hated really don't amount to much. When you get to know a fellow, know his every mood and whim, you begin to find the texture of the splendid side of him. You begin to understand him, and you cease to scoff and sneer. for with understanding always prejudices disappear. You begin to find his virtues, and his faults you cease to tell, for you seldom hate a fellow when you know him very well. When next you start in sneering, and your phrases turn to blame, no more of him you censure than his business and his name, for it's likely that acquaintance would your prejudice dispel, and you'd really come to like him if you knew him very well. When you get to know a fellow, and you understand his ways, then his faults won't really matter, for you'll find a lot to praise. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The White People by Frank Belknap Long, Jr. Read for LibriVox.org by Dale Grothmann. Out of the grass where the dew is wet, their houses lean and their hoards are set, deep in the woods that are not yet. Out of the earth where the night is cold, their worm dogs lean, and over the wold they fly with tales that are not told. Out of the wold when the moon rides low, their witch fires flicker and tapers grow, to guide the goblins to and fro. Out of the lake when the comets pass, their maidens rise, and over the grass they crawl like shadows on a glass. Out of the east, when the stars spin high, they dance, and the years go by, and the sun and the moon fade out of the sky, and still they dance. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Wraith by John Herman Merivale. Read for LibriVox.org by Newgatenovelist. Cold blew the breeze of early day, and furious fell the driving sleet. Sir Lodowick on the banks of Tay was riding from his castle seat. On him the storm unheeded beat, unfelt the wintry breezes blew, for she he hoped at eve to meet alone possessed his fancy's view. Long captive, and of hope forlorn, he bowed beneath the Paynim foe, nor all the time were tidings born of his sweet Emmeline's weal or woe. And now with beating heart, where glow alternate hopes and terrors lower, through piercing wind and driving snow, he sought his lovely Emmeline's bower. And first he crossed the rivulet's fall, where oft, in childhood's joyous day, an orphan in his father's hall, she with him used at eve to stray. Next by the bank pursued his way, which Emmeline loved at early morn, to deck with flowers and garlands gay, now rough with tangled briar and thorn. And now that ancient oak he spied, the best loved tree of all the glade, where first his amorous vows he sighed, and wooed and won the plighted maid. Thither his steps unbidden strayed, but lightning had the branches torn, and the bare roots, by storms assayed, groaned to the boisterous breath of morn. A keener air upon him blew, mixed with a sound so sadly shrill, has pierced his shuddering members through, and made each vein with horror thrill. A dark presage of future ill confusedly passed his senses o'er, when, heard by fits, long, faint, and still, the kirk bell chimed the hour of 4. Then first, while, shivering with the breeze, he closer folds his mantle round, dim through the murky mist he sees stretched on the bleak, unsheltered ground, a maiden form. The winds around unheeded roar, the driving snows descend unfelt, nor sight nor sound seem to disturb her last repose. He stretched his arms and vainly tried to clasp that heavenly form so fair. The vision seemed away to glide, and all he clasped was empty air. O Emmeline sweet, O Emmeline rare, say, dost thou not thy true love see? Or are his cheeks so changed with care, his eyes so sunk with slavery? Ha! wherefore fliest thou, fair? And wherefore to the inclement sky? Dost thou that tender bosom bare, nor heed the tempest rushing by? In vain he calls, since none is nigh, the phantom form no longer seen, but driving storms more fiercely fly, and the chill morning bites more keen. He looks around with eager eyes, through every opening glade, in vain. He calls aloud, but naught replies, save howling wind and beating rain. And now he spurs his steed amain, with desperate haste, mid wind and shower, through bush and briar, o'er hill and plain, until he stops at Emmeline's bower. Who first should meet his ardent sight? Who grant the kiss his raptures seek? Who, speechless, breathless with delight, hide in his breast her glowing cheek? In vain they both attempt to speak, love can no more than feel and see. At length the well-known accents break, my love, thrice welcome be, my Lodowick. Oh, an hour like this might well reward an age of pain, yet scarce for all this wondrous bliss would I last night dream o'er again. What phantom swarmed about my brain? What shuddering stole my senses o'er? As if my soul its flight had ta'en to some dark, wintry, howling shore. Long time in deadly trance I lay, a mass perplexed of shapeless thought, till fancy bore my soul away, and to the scenes of childhood brought. But when that trysted oak I sought, by Lodowick's early vows endeared, the storm its lordly boughs had caught, and all its leaves were scorched and seared. I laid me by that blasted tree, when, borne upon the tempest's roar, the old kirk bell tolled suddenly, through the dun air the hour of 4. Again a deadly trance came o'er, and all my powers of sense were flown. But, O my loved one, 'tis no more, thou art here, and art mine own. She said, o'er Lodowick's heart, the while, a short convulsive tremor stole, but soon his Emmeline's beaming smile chased every cloud that dimmed his soul. Sweet music's voice, the inspiring bowl, but most his Emmeline's artless glee, disperse the vapours as they roll, and melt in gleams of ecstasy. Her Lodowick safe, her Lodowick near, all care forsook the maiden's breast. Light was her heart, unused to fear, and golden slumbers crowned her rest. But when her form no longer blessed his sight, her voice his spirit charmed, wild fancy's train again possessed his thoughts, and vital powers disarmed. Then ever as with rapturous love, his mind he turned to Emmeline fair. The shape those torturing spectres wove was wan with woe, and pale with care, and blighted by the noisome air that shrewdly nipped its shivering form, and through its wet, unbraided hair shrill whistled to the driving storm. All night his fevered couch he pressed, hour after hour passed joyless o'er, till, striking chillness to his breast, he heard the well-marked sound of 4. From trance he started, when before his eyes appeared his spectre bride, but, while he gazed, she was no more, and in the cold pale moonlight died. Deep horror seized each vital power, his limbs were stiffened, fixed his eyes, when from fair Emmeline's distant bower low murmuring sounds were heard to rise, then, more distinct, shrill female cries, louder and louder, not a breath is breathed around, no groans, no sighs, one long, long shriek, the shriek of death. Fate strikes the forest's blooming pride, the ivied oak resists its spell, the bridegroom may forget the bride, but in Dunfermline's lowliest cell a lonely friar was known to dwell, who 60 years for death had prayed, how fervently no tongue can tell. Death comes not to the wretch's aid. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Have a very spooky Halloween.